Hello and welcome to Metra AV Tech Tips. I'm Brent.
I'm Adam.
And it's Wednesday.
It is Wednesday.
But it's not.
Well, for them
it is.
For them it's Wednesday.
And you're obviously a figment of my imagination because right now you're you're a hologram.
I'm here right now.
No, you're not.
When this is going live.
No, you're a hologram.
If
I'm willing to bet if I...
Not quite. Now, you're a hologram, though, because you are in Barcelona.
Not yet.
Yeah.
No, that's next Wednesday.
No, we already recorded this Wednesday.
Oh, so it's next
Wednesday.
Oh, so right. You're in the office. I'm not real.
That's right. Yeah, we've recorded that one already. That one already went live.
Okay. Well, hello from Barcelona.
Yes, well, wherever he's at. For all of our international viewers, if you are in the Barcelona area or if you are at the ISE show, please track down Brent and Maurice is also there.
Maurice and Jesse.
And Jesse will be there as well. Go and track them down. Do you know the booth number by chance?
No.
No?
No.
I'm sure you can find it on
the wall.
You're along the wall. You can find them. I'm sure you can find them on the floor map.
Yes.
You can look for Metra AEV.
We're in the home theater section of the ISE show.
Go check them out. Brent's going to be there. Maurice is going to be there.
Jesse will be there, and we'll be doing our thing.
The Xbox will be there.
Yes, as well as the 48 gig VLOX cables and a lot of exciting things. And you will be just returning from Tola.
Are you taking the thing that's not to be spoken of?
No.
I was going to say because that's not going there. Anyways.
No, that which shall remain unspoken until
Infocom
will not be taken because
Well, for reasons.
Yes, for reasons.
For reasons not to
Which
give
will
away
make perfect sense in Infocom.
It will make a lot of sense in
So,
Infocom.
what are we talking about this week? Because at this point, we've just rambled.
Okay, well, first and foremost, everybody, thank you for checking out today's episode. If you are watching this live, which we are still releasing this as a premiere, so you should be able to watch this live. I will be in the comments and in the chat, so you can leave your comments and questions and whatever else in the chat section over on that side of the page. If you are watching this after the fact, of course, you can leave it down in the chat section or in the comment section below, which even if you are watching this as the premiere, that should be live as well, so you can leave it down below, and we'll talk about it there as well.
Oh, we're on LinkedIn.
I don't know if we'll be on LinkedIn or not for this episode. We might be in
Facebook
the one after it.
YouTube.
Yep, Facebook and YouTube. So check us out in those locations. Of course, like, share, subscribe, hit the little bell on YouTube to let you know whenever we do go live, which of course is every Wednesday and Friday at 3 p.m.
Share us with your friends, your neighbors, and occasionally your enemies.
That's right. Now, normally our Friday episodes, we release those as an accompaniment to today's episode. I believe this episode will not have a Friday episode, just with everything happening all at once. I don't think we're going to be able to have a Friday episode. But if you come back next week, which I don't remember what we're talking about. Next week, I believe, might be something about TV mounts.
I mean, not next week, but the week after next.
Well, for them, next week. But for us, yes, the week after next, that one. Yeah, the week after the next one.
We can't keep it straight.
Well, yeah, anyways.
But there will be an episode because we're both back.
We're both back. We're going to be live that day. We'll be live that Friday.
In fact, it's my first day back from Barcelona.
So long as nothing goes wrong and you don't have to be diverted anywhere else, yeah, you should be back.
Or locked down for COVID or something else.
That's another thing entirely. We'll figure it out.
I'm getting my fourth shot today.
Woohoo! All right. So, everyone, with that said, let us know in the comments what you want to hear us talk about. These are all things that we want to talk about, that we like talking about. We want to hear from you, though, about what you are going through. Thank you. What you are going through on your side, and to see if there's anything else that we should talk about that you are looking forward to. Let us know if there's something, honestly, what I'm most curious about, I want to know the projects that you are working on right now.
And what do you need help on?
Yeah, let us know. We're happy to help out. We also want to talk about what it is that you are working on. We feel as though that's something that would be inspiring from you to let us know. Are you going through something specific?
Please.
Yeah, send us pictures. Send us blueprints. We're happy to talk about it. We're happy to.
When's our next Austin episode, by the way?
Not for a little while. So we are probably
we're in a waiting for things to be decided.
Correct.
Phase.
Yeah. Well, we're in that phase. We're in the purchasing phase. We're in the phase of getting things figured out. As far as I understand, they are breaking ground in the coming weeks.
Okay.
And that's as of this recording, not as of this release of this recording. But I believe in the next couple of weeks they are breaking ground. And when they break ground and lay the slab, I think that gives us an opportunity to go on site to at least get an overall picture of what's happening there on site.
So by the end of May.
That's the hope anyways.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is today's episode about after all that rambling?
After all that rambling, today's episode is about matrices. understanding them and troubleshooting them. Now, we've done multiple episodes actually on matrices specifically. We talked about EDID management, we've talked about understanding them, start to finish. We've talked about lots of things with them. So today I want to go back over that one more time. But I also want to talk about resolutions. And I want to talk about making sure
New Year's Eve resolutions?
Sure, that I've already thrown mine away. I want to talk about resolutions from the source device to the display, and where things can go wrong if those parts of it are not managed. We talked about EDID management.
And you used the proper word there.
What's that?
Managed.
Managed, making sure that they are managed.
We certainly, because it says Metra AV Tech Tips, one of the calls that I get at least weekly is, hey, I got this new device. It's probably HDMI 2.1, but it's not working.
Right.
And here's the thing. If you have 3 devices, pick any 3 devices, a source, an AVR, a switcher, and a display. If one of those 3 is not up to the same specs as the other 2, you're going to have failures. So if you've got a 2.1 source and maybe a 2.1 TV, but you don't have a 2.1 AVR,
especially in that case,
you're going to have a problem. But if you've got a 2.1 source, a 2.1 AVR, and not a 2.1 TV, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
If you got a 2.1 AVR and a 2.1 TV and you don't have a 2.1 source, who cares?
Yeah.
It's going to work. But any of the other combinations, mostly it's going to work.
Mostly it's going to work. We've already
some cable boxes have already been problematic.
Okay, so with that said, let's first set up the what, right? What is a matrix and how does it necessarily operate? I saw the latest movie, and I...
Wait, the latest movie? There's not
the Resurrection, yeah.
It's out?
Matrix, yeah, it's been out. Have you ever gone to see it? Well, okay, all right. Not for nothing. You're not really missing a whole lot. I'm a fan of the Matrix series, so I'm going to watch it again, and a few times. However,
really,
Reloaded and Revolutions were better, which is really saying something because
they were
not that great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm understanding why I missed this now, because nobody was talking about it when I came in the office.
Yes, nobody. Yeah, because no one really.
Okay, so then we're gonna skip Matrix.
Right past
we're gonna skip that part of the Matrix.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna switch us over here to the top-down shot and put us up here in the little corner. Have we put baby in the corner? So what we have here
put that joke in the corner.
Hey, listen. I'm tired of being the straight man to this comedy duo here. Every once in a while, I want to put a couple jokes out there.
Let me tell you how well you're doing that.
Yeah, right?
Let me tell you how well you're doing that.
Well, anyways. Okay, so I'm going to do this here first so I know where I'm at.
And by the way, you drive a Jeep, so being straight's not a consideration.
Well, I mean, I in competition with the Miata. Do you think I have to...
So what are you saying? It's not as cool as the Jeep?
Huh? What? All right, so here's what we've got. It is
red.
We have our Matrix. The Matrix is going to be red. Okay?
Just like the Jeep.
Matrix. Now, the Matrix, what's really cool about this, and actually, I can show you, I came up with this idea a little while back. I'm going to put the Matrix over here.
We're going to have hashtag Matrix? Or hashtag output?
Hashtag ArcPut. ArcPut. Actually, that's something to talk about.
No.
Let's talk about this really quick.
No,
no, hold on. Listen. You will not use ARC or eARC with a matrix. Now, I say that right now. And I'm saying that right now as it's not really there, but I'm also saying that because when it is there, and it might be there at some point in the future, but it's going to be very confusing and very frustrating. Unless it's handled correctly. And I'm just saying right now, if you're looking for ARC or eARC on a matrix, don't. Just do yourself a favor, don't do it. There's so many better ways to do it. If you have a matrix in play in a project, don't try to use ARC. Instead, put in a source device that's dedicated to whatever streaming services you're trying to accomplish. Even if you have to go out and buy a over-the-air tuner, separate tuner box, which they make those still. It has HDMI output on it, and it picks up over-the-air tunes and has IR commands and whatever else. Those are out there. And if you need to have that, and you need to have it set up in a way where you can listen to it and watch it, do that. Have a separate input device as that. So, and speaking of inputs, we're going to go ahead and give ourselves a couple inputs. Now I'm going to keep it simple. We're going to have 4 inputs. We're going to have an Apple TV. We're going to have an Xbox Series X. Okay. We're going to have a Blu-ray player. And just because I said it, we're going to have an over-the-air tuner.
Okay, can we delete the Apple TV and put in a Roku just to make our programming better?
Okay, all right, we'll do that.
Because they program better.
Sure. So we've got the Roku, we got the Xbox Series X. Now, this is very important, that Series X. Brent, what is that Series X chipset?
It's a 40 gig chipset.
It's a 40 gig chipset.
So
technically, it's a 2.1.
4K 120.
Right.
And variable refresh rate.
Yes, it does. And then we've got the over-the-air tuner. Now, because I just said that now, I'm just going to put it in there because guess what? That over-the-air tuner, what kind of resolution are we looking at?
It's absolutely capable of 4K.
It is. Very much so, it is, yeah.
And HLG.
Which actually, that's really fun because you can actually have HDR picture, which is HLG, but it's a high dynamic range.
Well, okay, if it's a movie broadcast, it can be HDR.
Yes, it can. And HLG does broadcast over the air for sporting events and whatever else, so you can still actually get that. Where it's broadcasted in 4K, I don't know.
I don't think we have any over-the-air 4K, but there are a number of markets in the U.S. that do.
Okay.
We're just not one of them.
So we're going to have our connections coming in here to the Matrix, right? And I can actually kind of dish this out a little bit better so it's a little bit more even, right? So we've got our inputs there. Now, here's what's cool about this. We're then going to have, you made it worse, didn't you? We're now going to have over here, we're going to have our displays. Now, I'm going to make this display 1, 2, 3, and 4, okay? And just to make sure that we're actually doing this for a purpose, we're going to do a 1080 here. We're going to do a 1080 here. We're going to do a 4K here. And we're going to do an 8K here.
Where's my projector?
This one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, we'll do this one. So this one's our 4K projector.
Right, because there are 8K projectors out there, but they're few.
Yeah.
Yet.
Well, and we're also going to say that there's an AVR in here.
Which makes sense because you have a projector.
Correct, because you're going down to that. Okay, so. And again, we're going to go pretty nice and clean here with everything. Like this. And like this. Okay? All right, now. Here's what a Matrix basically looks like on the inside, in concept anyways. Not necessarily what it actually looks on the inside because it's just a bunch of boards and chips and stuff. But the inside of a Matrix looks like this. Okay? So this is a 4x4. Which this means that we can have the Roku coming in, going all the way over to here and down, here and down, here and down, right? Means we can have the Xbox coming in here and down, down, here and down, and down. We can have the Blu-ray coming in all the way over here and down, here and down, here and here. And then finally, we have the over-the-air tuner coming, oops, it goes all the way down to here, over and down, 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 and down.
It's a grid pattern.
It's a grid pattern. This is how a Matrix works, guys. This is really, I mean, conceptually, this is what it is. So really what's happening is you have a splitter at one point, and then you have switches at another, right? Really straightforward. You got a splitter and a switch, and the splitter is splitting it out to all of the different outputs, and the switch at this point is selecting which of the inputs it's wanting to view. Now, again, this is high level, just concepts of what a Matrix is and what it does and how it operates. Because in reality, it does not look like this. Now, it does to a certain point, because actually if you do go all the way down to like the microscopic level on the board.
You mean the trace level.
The trace level, and even further down, because this is actually the trace level inside the chip itself that's handling the switching. This is basically what's happening at that level. Now, it's different layers, it's different filters, it's different, switches, it's whatever, but the truth is that it does go basically all the way down to that level.
That's wonderful.
Right? So.
Now, what does this mean?
This means that we can have the Roku on any one of these displays. Okay? We can have the Xbox Series X on 2 of these displays. Actually, technically, you can have it on any one of these displays. Blu-ray, same thing, on any one of these displays, and the over-the-air tuner on any of these displays.
Okay. However, our tech tip as we got started said if you have a Xbox Series X or any 8K set, and you have another 8K device, but you don't have an 8K device in the middle, you're going to have problems.
You are going to have problems.
So how are you going to resolve those problems?
Well,
because what is this episode about? Troubleshooting matrices.
That's right. So let's start with that.
Because I know I tossed that one in. We didn't discuss it, but I'd like to make your life just a little bit tough.
This is perfect. We're going to erase it and then we're going to draw it out for how it's connected.
I just don't like all the lines. I like to be clean.
Oh,
Give me a nice square at the top.
Okay.
So how are we going to make this work with
to everybody else?
Okay.
Okay.
No, you know what?
Just the
The
Xbox
heck with everybody else.
The 8K to 8K?
Yep.
Okay. So here's what's going to happen. Brent, do you want 8K?
Well, of course I do. I just bought an 8K TV and I bought an 8K game. I have this. Now, why would I not want 4K 120 with this?
And specifically 4K 120.
Yes, because you know what? 8K is not really in use yet.
Well, here's the deal. Am I telling you this after I've already installed it, or do I have a chance to at least lay down some understanding?
I am telling you what I want before you do the job.
Perfect. Okay, Brent. We unfortunately at this time, Metra AV does not have a matrix that can handle.
Who does?
2.1. There is one.
Is there?
There is one.
Is it actually shipping?
It's, and as far as I understand, it's shipping, but we won't go there.
Okay.
Because it's not ours.
I don't believe it.
It's out there.
I don't believe it.
They could do research. Oh, well, it might not be shipping.
I don't think it's
shipping.
shipping.
Is it not shipping?
I don't think it's
shipping. Do you
shipping.
know who I'm talking about?
Oh, I do know who you're talking about. I don't think it's shipping. I don't think it's shipping.
It may not be shipping.
Because it's all FPGAs. I don't think it's shipping.
So right now, you cannot get
to the best of my knowledge.
To the best of my knowledge, you cannot get a matrix that handles 2.1.
4K 120. Now,
4K 120.
Remember, 2.1 is a misnomer.
So technically, 2.1 is also what this
HDMI
is doing all the way down here. Okay, but anyways.
You have to. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
You have to be specific about feature sets. Darn it.
Okay. Feature-wise, this matrix cannot handle FRL, VRR, 4K 120, QMS, quick media switching. It cannot support the rest of the new features of HDMI 2.1.
So that being the case.
Yes. So here's what you can do. We have two options. We can put a splitter right here at the matrix and run it directly into the 4K.
Oh, you mean an HDMI 2.1 splitter?
Yes, which is also very difficult to find, right? Especially one that will take and keep 2.1 here and 2.0 here.
And that's why I'm asking you this question, because if I were the integrator,
at this point,
I would not put the, because you put it on here,
I know.
And I'd love to be contrary to you.
I love it.
Because I'm just that kind of schmuck.
You would actually remove the Xbox, wouldn't you?
I would remove the Xbox from this. Because, first off, how am I going to control the Xbox all the way back in the rack?
This is the assumption that we have the Xbox, or we have the rack at a much further distance away from the 8K TV, and on top of that, the fact that we want 8K. So guess what? We're going to put the Xbox.
So this is all about design of your system.
That's right.
So before you fight a problem, don't have a problem.
Exactly.
So we now have the Roku, Blu-ray, and over-the-air tuner. We're probably going to have a second Roku because
I would assume so.
You and I put at least 2 Rokus on every job.
Yes, we do.
And we used to put Apple TVs, and we've decided they're just not worth the effort.
Yeah, they're really not, because you can get everything that's on the Apple TV,
on the Roku.
Especially now that Apple TV, the service,
is on the Roku.
It's just not worth it.
And we're not paid by Roku, but darn it, we do like it.
It just works so well. If you have an opportunity and you haven't tried it yet, go and try it. It just works so well.
My acceptance of this is entirely because of you.
You're welcome.
And forcing it down my throat, and you were right.
Yeah. Okay, so
now we have a matrix system that will work.
Now we have a matrix system that will work. And that's, Brent, I appreciate that because you called it out, and you made a good point. And I think that worked out really well.
Well, it's all about troubleshooting. And I don't want to troubleshoot if I can plan.
Exactly. And again, kudos to you for that. I don't give you those very often on air, so kudos to you.
So now we have 1080, 1080, 4K, and 8K.
Yes.
We've got 4K HDR, 4K HDR, 1080, because you said Blu-ray.
Sure.
And possibly 4K HDR.
Yeah.
So how are we going to make this function correctly?
Okay, so first and foremost, we're going to get a matrix that can actually handle, pardon me, let's back up. At this point, we're going to assume that we have a matrix that's capable of actually doing scaling for us.
And they certainly are out there.
In fact, we have one.
Call us.
Yeah, we have one. The CS-50 44M HDBTS and 88M HDBTS, the HDBaseT outputs can downscale from a 4K to a 1080, right? So if these two TVs here, the TV1 and TV2 are at a distance that you can put, again, the 20 meters HDBaseT minimum distance, that you can put the HDBaseT connection onto that, then I would do that 100% and have those scaled down to 1080p.
If you have a non-HD matrix, non-HDBaseT matrix.
Correct.
The other option is to use our 1x2 scaler with our 1x2 splitter with auto scaling.
That's right.
Which is a great way to handle this and reasonably inexpensive.
So with those, you would actually go from the Roku source to the 1x2 splitter, and we know it has a secondary output, but we're not going to use that secondary output.
Actually, I wouldn't put it there. I wouldn't put it there.
Really? Oh, I know where you're going to put it. Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Because as a system designer, I'm only concerned about the TVs that are 1080p.
And so we're going to go here, and we're going to put it, I'm going to call it this piece here. Ta-da! And again, this one has a secondary output, but we're not going to use it.
Any device going into this can still be 4K.
That's right.
To go here or here. So the only place we have to worry about dropping it down, because they won't give up those antique televisions. I saw something on, I think it was on AVS Forum. Some guy was whining, he was trying to sell an FD11 Pioneer Elite plasma and couldn't even get $60. One of the really high-end, the monitor panel.
Right.
Could not even get $60 for it.
No.
It's like, well, you know. He's happy with their crappy LCDs. It's like, okay, let's be honest. HDR, 4K, pretty much killed.
And they were beautiful panels at the time, but not
now you have 4K and
to what they
HDR?
can do with it and that stuff now. Yeah.
So this is the correct way to handle this, in my opinion.
Yes.
Instead of up it down, because we want to maintain.
Yes.
And this, if this were an 8 input.
Yes.
Then we could use the splitter.
Up here.
Right.
And then that way we could ensure that it works elsewhere.
That way we're wiping out inputs. I would rather do it on the output, and then you just make sure the 1080p display goes on the proper output
of that splitter,
which I believe is number 2 on the 1x2.
Yes. Yes.
I think it is.
I think it is. Yeah. Check the manual.
Check the manual.
Yep.
But this way, everything maintains the maximum capabilities it can
at this stage.
Every TV.
Yep. And so what this is, so let's talk about what's happening at each one of these points. So we just talked about the Roku and the Roku 1 and Roku 2. So we're going to assume that these are 4K HDR sources. They're being matrixed out to each one of these sources. Now here's the thing. Because of these splitter scalers, they are automatically scaling down from the 4K HDR down to the 1080
right,
SD.
but they're doing it here,
correct,
not here.
Correct. So that retains, because we're doing it here, we are retaining the 4K HDR connection.
And the deep color.
And the deep
color. And the HDR, all the good stuff.
So that we can now use them over here with the AVR and that's on the 4K projector, and here on the 8K TV. Now, the AVR is going to play tricks on us. It could potentially cause problems or create tricks for us. So in some cases, at this point here, I'm actually going to also put in a 1x2 splitter scaler.
And you're going to you're going to connect it first to the TV to lock the resolution down.
Yep.
And then connect it through the AVR.
So the projector is going to become our primary output, so it's going to copy the EDID from the projector.
Which is always a good idea, because projector EDIDs are unique.
Yes. And we're going to send it, then we're going to send one output to the AVR and one output to the projector directly. And the AVR would not be connected directly to the projector. Well, it could be.
It could be if it's a 4K AVR. Now, the advantage of doing it this way is if you spent that $5,000 for the Denon and the Marantz AVR and it didn't have all the latest, greatest capabilities.
Sure.
You maintain those capabilities at the projector.
Yep.
While supporting what the AVR does.
For the surround sound.
Right.
Yes, exactly. And you may have a really great preamp for the AVR of some kind, or maybe a separate, but it may be 5 years old. Or older.
And it was very, very expensive.
Yeah, at the time, and you don't want to do that, but you are ready to upgrade the projector, you can. Doing something like this would ensure that you have 4K HDR at the projector and ensure that you have
whatever
you need at the
wants.
AVR.
Yep.
Yeah. So then the 8K TV, what happens here?
Well, not a darn thing, you just leave it alone.
Not a darn thing. Now, you may run into some problems where the 8K doesn't play nice with the 4K because of the chipset issue.
As long as we don't have an 8K or 4K 120 source.
They're doing much better with those now, aren't they?
Yes, we won't have an issue. If this were back on here.
Yes.
the EDID management inside of the Matrix would not be sufficient.
Right.
Because it's not designed to see all of that. And at that point, the only thing we found that works, and we see this in a lot of cases, is you actually have to put an EDID emulator
Yes.
on the output of the source that's giving you the trouble, which eliminates the advantage of the Xbox Series X.
Right.
So move it to the 8K, 4K, 120 TV.
Yep.
As direct. That gives it local and the controllers.
Yep. They're within distance
Everything's
of the,
within the
of
distance.
the player.
You're not having any additional delays.
Exactly.
And if you need to, if you're not using the audio from the TV, if it's a sound bar, it's right there anyway.
Sure.
I noticed we don't have an AVR on this particular TV.
We're going to assume that it's the living room TV where they don't really have surround sound, but they don't, but they want the better picture, whatever else.
Then you're done.
Yeah. Now, if you wanted to put like a soundbar on here, that's where we go back to last week's episode where we talked about ARC and eARC.
Right.
And honestly, go back and check out that episode. We get into problems that you run into there and how to overcome them, and also why eARC is so much better than ARC. But go back and watch that episode.
Works.
It does. So, Brent, we talked about the 4K HDR sources. So now we've got the Blu-ray and the over-the-air tuner. So let's say the over-the-air tuner is HLG. Well, we're still basically in the same position.
Yep,
right?
because nothing really changes. The Matrix is quite capable of supporting everything that you've asked for.
Right.
Up to 18 gigabits of bandwidth.
Right.
HDR, HLG, deep color.
Yep.
So nothing's changed there.
Right.
Everything is still good to go. And as we have learned, a lot of 8K sets aren't really fully 8K. They're
True.
kind of doing
True.
tricks anyway.
Yeah.
So everything still falls within the domain of the product. There's no
Right.
issues.
Now the Blu-ray is, we're going to assume this is a 1080p Blu-ray. This is just a basic 1080p Blu-ray. We're not doing UHD Blu-rays or anything like that. It's just 1080p. So at that point, do we have to change anything else?
Nope.
Everything's basically set up. Now, here's what this does for us, okay? This actually does a couple things. One thing I want to make note of is that we did not talk about EDID management of the Matrix itself, because what we've described here works with every HDMI 2.0 Matrix out there.
Or should anyway.
In theory, it should. Now, so with the Matrix, because there's different types. There's Matrixes that don't have EDID management built into them. They do more of a lowest common denominator.
Which is a bad idea.
It will actually, pardon me, the highest common denominator, where everyone, if anyone is a 1080, everyone is 1080.
Yep.
Right. Even the 4K, the 8K, or the 4K 120. Guess what? Doesn't matter. Everyone's 1080 now. That's just what it's doing. Which, back in the days of a 1.4 and even 2.0, that was acceptable. But now, where we have such a mix of different resolutions,
Yep.
you really need
And
to make sure that you can do
capabilities.
that. And capabilities. So, with this here, now if you do have a Matrix that does have EDID management, I'm going to say, still do it this way. Now, you can go in here and you can say, okay, this Roku is a 1080p Roku. I'm gonna, even though it's a 4K Roku, I'm gonna dedicate this one to 1080p. So I'm gonna go into the EDID management. I'm gonna tell this Roku, you are connected to a 1080p
And it will tell
display.
That EDID will pass back to the Roku.
Yep.
And it will tell it you're 1080.
You're 1080, which means that no matter what's being viewed, or what that is being viewed on, it's gonna be a 1080p resolution. Now, we're gonna say that this one's 4K. That's great. It just means that everything from here this way is able to view it, and everything from here this way is not.
And that's going to be problematic.
It is.
When I was married and had multiple cable boxes, we didn't have this room and that room. We had his and hers.
Right.
Going into the Matrix. So regardless of which room she was in, she selected her cable box. It had her recordings
Yes.
and her settings. She preferred a stretched picture. She did not like
Yeah.
the letter boxes.
Sure.
I hated stretched pictures.
Yep.
So I very rarely watched a non-HD channel.
Right.
So my box was set up, she would not accept it, but I couldn't stand hers.
Yeah.
So that flexibility by having a his and a hers works perfectly.
Right.
But this is now based not on his or hers, it's based on location. That's a bad idea, because if what you want's here
Right.
and you want to go to that room,
Right.
you got a problem.
Right. So what you can do though here with this is let's continue this topic here. The Blu-ray, it's 1080p. Everybody gets to watch the Blu-ray, right?
No issues.
The over-the-air tuner, however, that's a 4K tuner. Now, in some cases, if you're not in an area where there is 4K service, it could be a 1080. which in most cases when you're watching TV, you might as well just set it to 1080p anyways.
Having seen 4K OTA in New York,
Yeah?
it's impressive.
Is it?
It's a lot better than cable
Well, in that
4K.
case-
It's a lot better than satellite 4K, and it's a lot better than streaming 4K because there's a tremendous amount more bandwidth on OTA.
That's surprising.
Not really.
For the amount of bandwidth that it's able to,
They don't have to
bring down?
Okay, how many channels are you supporting on the internet coming
I
into
guess
your
you are
house?
just broadcasting generally.
Yes.
You're not having to pinpoint where it's going.
Right.
You're just
And-
broadcasting in
And
general
you're not
to it.
supporting a ton of channels in one frequency.
True, very true. Yeah. So in this case, then if you have 4K service, great. But guess what? Again, everybody from here down cannot view
Cannot
that 4K.
see it.
Yeah.
Right.
So either upgrade this to a larger AVR or larger matrix and give them additional 1080
Inputs.
versus 4K.
Which is a pain in the butt for programming.
Right. It can be done, but it's still a pain in the butt. Or instead, go ahead and look at putting in again the
Which is a
the scalers and
reasonably
everything else.
inexpensive, reliable
Yes.
solution.
Yes.
Every time it works.
Yep. So
This does not affect this. This does not affect this. Everything just works.
So we're going to assume that we don't have these in here, right? We're going to knock these out, okay? We're going to assume that I am an integrator. Maybe I'm a new integrator, or I have maybe not so much experience with a matrix of some kind.
So you're Adam Rogers when I first met you.
Sure. Yeah, that works. Yeah, because that's basically it. That's kind of where I was.
Yeah.
So
That was, what, a year ago?
So I have installed this system here. I'm going to put in the resolutions here. And I'm going to say that this is 1080 for now.
Okay.
Okay? 4K, 4K, 1080, 1080. So I give you a call. And call up tech support. Your stuff doesn't work.
Okay. Hi, my name's Brent, and you are?
Angry. How about that?
Okay. Oh, okay, Angry. Well, let me ask you a couple of questions, Angry, because
Sure.
I've been in your job site just like you are, and
Sure.
I do understand your levels of frustration. Tell me about your system. What do you have connected to the Matrix?
Well, right now I want to tell you what's wrong, because what's wrong right now is it's not working right. I can't see anything on TV1, TV2, and TV4. It's I can't see the Xbox. Everything
Okay.
else I can see perfectly fine on there, but I can't see anything on 1 and 2.
Okay. Angry.
Uh-huh.
I got my whiteboard here set up at my desk. Unfortunately, we're not on a video conference, so
Sure.
I can't share it with you, but I need to catch up with where you are.
All right.
So tell me first off, what matrix do you have?
Well, I've got the one that I got the CS44M.
Okay, so what you have is a basic 4-in, 4-out matrix, correct?
That's right.
Tell me what sources you have connected, Angry.
Well, I've got the Roku 1, Roku 2, I've got a Blu-ray player and an over-the-air tuner.
Okay, when you set your HDMI up on each of these, when you were doing your setup, did you select 4K or 1080? Do you know?
I just plugged them in.
Gotcha. Okay, good start.
Okay.
Tell me about what displays you have connected and which output they're connected on the matrix.
Okay, well, the output one goes into the kitchen. It's an existing TV. I don't know how old it is, but it's really small.
Okay.
I got a TV in the bathroom. Again, same thing. It's a small TV. It's above the closet door, whatever. I've got the little theater that they've got there. It's got a drop down screen and a surround sound system. And the reason I'm here is actually to install the new 8K TV.
Ooh, that's very nice. Lucky you.
Well, lucky them.
Which one did you get?
I got these. We're gonna go with. Let's see. What am I putting in there? We're putting in the LG.
Okay.
We're putting in that one.
Okay, so as I'm writing my notes down here, you've got a small TV in room number 1 and a small TV in room number 2. Okay, just based on the size, just for what it's worth, the maximum resolution they can be is 1080 because they don't make small 4K TVs that are readily available.
I'm going to assume that because they're probably maybe 5 years old.
Okay, so they may actually even be 720s.
Okay.
No biggie, but just things I need to mark. Okay, so in the theater, the projector, do you know how old that projector is?
That one's fairly new. My associate installed that maybe a year ago.
Okay, so the highest probability is it's a 4K. That's awesome. And then you have an 8K TV down here, right?
Right.
Okay, Angry. Is there any AVRs involved in this?
The projector.
Okay, so it has a surround sound receiver involved in it.
And it was
Okay.
installed at roughly the same time.
Okay, so it's also going to be 4K. The cabling between the AVR, between the sources and the matrix? Is it all fairly short?
We're going to assume shortness for now. We're going to go with a 2 meter or under from the source to the matrix.
So I know what we're not fighting. We're not dealing with problems there.
Sure.
So with short cables, they're pretty much all going to support, as long as it's a reputable brand, they're going to support what you need to get out of this. The cabling from the matrix to the other rooms, do you have any idea what's there?
Well, it's the 44M, and I have, let's see, going into the kitchen, it's something pre-existing, but it's only on the other side of the wall of the equipment, so it might have we're going to go with 4 meter cable.
Okay, on the 1080.
On the other one in the bathroom, that one's a little bit further away. We're going to go with probably maybe 50 feet.
Okay, and the projector?
That one is, my associate installed that with an AOC. We're going to go with an install bay AOC.
Was the system working properly prior to the installation of the 8K television?
I'm going to go with, let's see. I'm going to go with yes.
Okay.
It was working.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to go with yes.
Okay. The Xbox Series X.
I'm also installing that today.
Okay, is that connected directly to the 8K television? Or is that also connected to the Matrix?
Well, I had so I ran out of sources on inputs on the Matrix, so I thought, well, I think the kids, it's really close to the 8K TV, so I thought, I'm sure the kids probably wanted to be able to play it in the other rooms and stuff, so I went ahead and put an HDMI switch between the Blu-ray player and the Xbox Series X and the input 3 on the Matrix.
Okay. So here are my first questions. We're going to do a little troubleshooting. Here's the first thing I'm going to ask you to do. Is the back of the Matrix available to you?
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to validate source to displays.
Okay.
We just need to find out what works.
Okay.
So I want you to grab a pencil and a piece of paper.
Oh boy.
Now, here's what I want you to do. Because this is going to take you a little bit of time, and I get that.
Sure.
What I want you to do is one cable at a time, one source at a time, one display at a time, because we don't want to mess up the wiring that's there that your compadre spent hours doing.
Sure.
What I want you to do is disconnect the cable going to room number 1 and plug it into each source independently.
Okay.
I just want to know, do you get picture?
Okay.
Once you've done that, mark all this down and then put everything back where you found it cable-wise.
We're going to say yes, except for the Xbox, which only shows up on the 8K.
Okay.
Okay, we're just going to jump forward in time.
So we know that the Xbox can only show up on the 8K unless you want to dumb it way down, and you have to do that in the menu by first really connecting it.
Actually, let me just go ahead and say that yes, it does work on everything. Works on everything directly.
We do know, for example, that the Xbox will drop down to 720.
We know that the Xbox will drop down to
480, and the picture is horrible. It is very much blown out.
We might need to show that. We took the, just really quick side story. We were playing around with the Xbox Series X when we first got it, and
excited.
We put an EDID blocker on it. Just because.
Just curious.
Just because, right? And this is one of those things that we always try.
All EDID.
It blocks all the EDID. It blocks all of the HDCP. However, the Xbox, what's interesting about the Xbox is that they want you to play games. They really do, because even though
the worst conditions.
Yeah, even though HDCP was blocked and EDID was blocked, it still gave us a picture. However, that picture was only at 480p.
It looked horrible.
It was so low. It looked horrible. Now, it didn't help the TV any. Stretched it fully out to the full image.
Yep.
But you could definitely
and that was on the
tell.
Samsung.
Was that on the Samsung?
That was
or did
on
we
the
have
Samsung.
the LG at that
right,
time?
we didn't have the LG yet.
That's right. We were still working out the Samsung and what it could and could not do. That's right. So that was on the Samsung. So the Samsung stretched it out. And even though they have capabilities where it upscales certain pictures, you can't upscale 480 all the way to even 4K. It just does not look right. And it was trying. It really was. But anyways.
That aside.
Moving on.
So, Angry. You have now taken the time to connect each of these, and we do know that everything direct connected
Yes.
operated correctly.
Yes.
It all worked.
Yes.
However, when you went direct, 1080, or 720, 4K, and you got a picture on the 8K.
Sure.
So we know we're all good there. And we also know that you've realized that the Xbox has to be directly connected to the television.
We're going to jump ahead and make that assumption.
Okay.
Yes.
So now what are we fighting in here
Aha.
that has changed?
So I have not put in okay, so the little bit more backstory. The Matrix was installed at the time that the 4K projector was installed, so about a year ago. I don't know what my associate did here, and I don't have a laptop.
You're making life tough on me,
I
aren't
really
you,
am.
Avery?
Yep. No, I don't expect
You laid in bed last night thinking about this, didn't you?
How can I make this difficult? Okay, so we're going to make the assumption that I don't have I'm not going to make you remember how to do it. By the way, these matrices, the 44M and the 44M HDBTS, you can change the EDID for the inputs by the buttons on the front of the unit. If you press and hold input, whichever input number you're trying to
I was
change.
looking for a matrix to hold up here, but
Yeah, if you try that box right there. If you press and hold the input button for it, and for whichever input you're trying to change, so like 1, 2, 3, or 4, it'll bring up the menu for the EDID selection on the screen, on the little LCD screen that's on the front of the matrix. There you go, thank you. So if you press and hold like input 1, it'll bring it up here on this display here, and then you just cycle through up and down as to which EDID you want to send back to the source device.
now you can also check networking status and IP address by pressing
That's right.
pressing buttons on the front.
Yep. Okay, so, well, okay, I have a laptop. Okay, we're going to go with that. I've already connected to the laptop, and it's stock settings.
Okay. So at this point, Angry, I'm going to connect you over to my top
Pardon me.
matrix. You're thinking now.
Yeah, we're going to go with, because stock settings technically would make it work. The problem I'm having.
So then what you're telling me the problem you're having is you're just a lousy integrator.
I haven't, yeah, I'm just bad at it. We're just going to go with that.
So I was going to send you over to my top matrix troubleshooter, Adam Rogers, but I'm not going to do that now.
So the reality of what I was trying to create the problem here is that in this case, we're going to assume that the matrix was set up previously by someone else, and that the 1080p TVs that are down here at the bottom were not 1080p TVs. These have been replaced.
Oh, you didn't tell me. Oh,
No.
At what point would you
we were
go?
going to get there. We
At
were
what
getting
point
there.
would you go from 4K to 1080?
Well, we're going to assume that these are really.
The house got sold, and he just. I can tell you exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's exactly
the
what
house got sold.
Yes,
and
yeah.
he pulled stuff out of garage sales and stuck in there.
Yep.
And you're the new homeowner.
Yep, exactly. We're going to go with that. So here's what's happened then. We've gone from a 4K source, a 1080 source, and a 1080 source, and we've now made it to where a 1080p, 4K, and 8K, in 4K 120, we've made it to where these two TVs here cannot view either Roku or we're going to assume this is 1080p over the air. It cannot see these because these are outputting 4K. The Matrix is telling these that it's set to an EDID of 4K, so we're going to output 4K. Now, when it was saying it was working before, we'll run with your idea. I bought the house, and as I'm reviewing the house before I buy it,
It all worked.
It all worked because there were 4K TVs in place. Now that I've moved in, I didn't pay attention to what brand of TV was in there.
We have all been to sold houses that this was working before.
Sold, bought, whatever.
Yeah.
So in this case, that's what's happening. You cannot have an output to a 1080p TV if it's a 4K output.
Particularly if
4K
it's
input.
a fixed EDID.
Exactly.
If it's left in read machines,
Yes.
it's going to say, okay, they've selected a 1080p. If I'm watching this 4K over here at 4K,
Yeah.
and I now select, I also want to send it to this TV, it's all going to 1080. Everything down the line, if it's just set in read EDID.
Right. Now, again, the fix for all of this is we can either change the EDID settings here or inside the matrix for these to make these 1080, which just means that everybody's viewing 1080, which is not great, but you get picture, right?
Yeah.
The better fix is to say, hey, go to your dealer and find out where we can get the 1x2 splitter scalers,
SPL5s.
SPL5s, and throw those in there to solve that problem. Or upgrade
a better
those
solution
TVs.
is to, but you may not be, size could be the contributing factor.
Sure,
there.
yeah.
And the reality of it is, much smaller than 43 inches, you're not going to get a modern television.
Sure. So
keep SPL 1.2, SPL 5 splitters in your truck.
Yes. Yeah.
And they're not expensive, and they are absolutely a problem solver.
Yes, they are.
And they solve lots of issues, not just that one. Now, we also, there is a slightly less expensive alternative to this. It's over category cable. So
And HDMI. It
and
has
HDMI.
It has HDMI outputs.
So let's assume we also have that one.
So that's the CS44MEE. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. So the CS44MEE, that one there is very similar to our CS44M HDBTS, but however, it has it doesn't use HDBaseT as
It uses
the
the competitor,
transmitter. Yep.
which is really nice.
It works really well. It also has the scaling capabilities for the
And that's the question.
for the extenders. Now, in that case, what you could do is you could replace the Matrix, put the 44MEE in there with the receivers on those two 1080p TVs. That would allow you to have those TVs set to a 1080p output.
And it's just all done right there with EDID management.
Yeah.
Which means you don't have to have those. And you can run the whole thing over category cable.
Right.
Now, the biggest difference between this and the MEE is the physical size.
Yes.
That's just a much smaller box.
It is a much smaller box. Yeah, it really is. Works out really well. And in fact, was going to be our Friday episode. And so instead, we're just going to talk about it here today, which is the 44MEE. Not this one. This is the HD-based is it the HD-based
Yes,
one?
it is.
Okay. So not this one, but the CS44MEE is the one that you want to check out. Reach out to your sales rep and or your distributor for availability and pricing on it. It's actually a really great matrix. We brought it in and built it up as kind of the commercial product initially, but it's working out really well in residential applications as well.
Particularly in smaller ones that in a four zone, four source, four display application. This application, it's pretty much perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, we see it used in those applications. We see it used in restaurants. We see it used in houses of worship. We see it in many different applications because it just works really well.
Now, is that IP controlled?
It is IP controlled. It's IR controlled and RS-232 controlled.
So pretty much any control system you've got, it's going to work with it.
Yep, and we've got drivers for Control 4, I know for a fact. And Crestron, I believe we have a module for.
And the IR codes and the serial information is online, I believe.
Yes, it is. Yep, it's all online there.
So the thing to take out of all this right out of the gate is make sure the Series X is connected directly to the television.
Yeah, for now, that's really the kind of the way that you need to do it. Have your Xbox Series X, your PlayStation 5, or if you're using a gaming PC that has like a newer graphics card that can handle 4K 120.
What graphic card will do that?
That's the RTX series 3 series or the RTX 30 series, or it's the it's the one from AMD. Hey, John. What's the AMD graphics card series? The Radeon. The new Radeon series. Thank you, John.
The fact that you two know this just is not right.
And I'll be honest, I didn't know this until maybe about 2 years ago when I built my first computer. It was my first build that I did myself. Everything else had been pre-built that I had been gaming on. This was the first time that I built it myself, and I researched a bunch of it and played around with it.
It's just a sad statement about
Well, you know, I also am in the same position as many people who don't have graphics cards of the new series. I'm still using 2 generations old graphics card.
No.
Yeah. Yep. No.
So you haven't convinced your wife to spend $600 on a graphics card yet?
I haven't been able to find one.
There is that.
That's been the hard thing, is being able to find one. Now, luckily, prices are coming down because availability is showing up again. Scalpers have decided to stop buying them up and selling them for 4 times the cost of what they were, but we're finally getting back into a better position.
Okay, so we're using the MEE Matrix.
Yes.
We're running Cat 5 or Cat 6?
Either.
What kind of distance can I get?
You're going to ask me those questions, aren't you?
Well, yes, I am.
Let's find out. So just so I make sure that I don't say incorrectly what we
You
are
are tech
capable
support.
of do.
It's your job to know this stuff. Does it support bidirectional IR while I'm asking you?
No, it does not.
Is it forward to the TVs?
Yes. No, pardon me. It's
from the TVs back.
from the TVs. It's HDMI signals up to 70 meters. So we're looking at 230 feet over Cat 6. We say Cat 6. You can use Cat 5. You're going to get a little bit of a shorter distance.
Probably about $1.50 to be on the safe
sure.
side.
It does include the receivers as well. So all 4 receivers do come with it.
It's an excellent price.
Honestly, it's a great value matrix, and we really like it a lot. It works really, really well. When we were doing our stress testing on it, it was very difficult to get it to not function correctly.
Which is why, as you're looking at this, this is not a high probability in our tech support world. Because with the MEE, As long as you don't connect this piece to it,
Yes, the Xbox.
it's gonna work.
That's right.
As soon as you throw a 2.1 device onto anything, as we said at the top of the show,
Yes.
it can create problems.
Yes, it can.
Unless it's all 2.1, and even then, compatibility is not 100%.
No, it's not. So, but I think that kind of covers for today's episode. That really kind of covered what I wanted to talk about as far as functionality and matrices.
So let me ask you about the Tola show.
Yeah.
Was it a good show?
Oh, it's great. It was a great show. I'm making the assumption that it was a great show. I'm actually traveling. I'm leaving tomorrow morning to fly out to the Tola show.
But tomorrow morning being what date?
Tomorrow morning being, let's see, what is today? Tomorrow morning being
The
May
3rd?
3rd.
The 3rd.
So for you all watching, it was May 3rd that I was there, and I will have been there until the 6th, which I think is Friday.
And then I leave on May 6th, which is 2 weeks ago.
Yes, yes. So you'll be leaving
on this,
before I get back.
I get back on the 17th, and then this show is, no.
Yeah, that's right. You get back on the 17th.
The 17th.
This show will have aired the previous Wednesday.
Right.
Yes. And then, so we will also be
I'm
here.
confused.
Yep, we'll be here the 18th as well for a live show, which we'll let the
All things
we'll let
considered.
the marketing team get out to you which episode that one is on. We're so far out right now. But everybody, I think at this point in time, we are looking forward to seeing you at those shows. If we have not,
Please come by and see me at ISE. I don't really, if you're at Tola,
well, too
walk
late.
up and give him a slap. Yes.
Too late
If
for
you're
that one.
at Tola, I hope you gave him a slap. Just on GP.
It's fun playing with time, isn't it?
Time,
seeing
time,
where it's at.
time.
So
Is on my side.
is it though?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Speaking of time on my side.
Yeah, you see the
Yeah,
gray
there's,
coming in right
I'm
there?
seeing one here and one here. It's kind of like little teeth.
I got the two little things right there. Also, I got gray coming in here on the side of my
Oh,
head
wait.
and
You
everything.
know what I have up here?
All gray.
I have hair.
Yes, that's true. That's very
It's
true.
granted, it's getting thin.
yeah.
I will grant you that it's not near as, it's fluffy, but it's not thick.
All right, I think that kind of does it for us today, everybody. Thank you again for joining us. If you
Please
have
come
any
and
questions,
see us at the show.
yes,
Well, I hope you
if
saw.
you're at
I hope you
IC,
saw us at the shows.
I will be at Infocom at the beginning of June, which I'm sure that I'll talk about.
No, that's
again.
going to be an awesome show
Yep,
because
that's going to be a fun show.
Your secret's finally out.
Oh, it's finally going to be there. We are actually we're finalizing booth design right now, and we're really excited.
No,
about
we
it.
finalized booth design 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, you get the idea. Again, as always, everybody, if you have any questions about whatever it is that we've talked about today, or if you have any ideas for us to talk about, let us know down in the comment section below. We're always looking for new topics and new things to talk about. We also want to hear from you. Again, like I said at the top of the episode, let us know what you're working on. I want to know
Send us photos, darn it.
what it is that you're working on right now. One, because I'm always interested in stuff like that, and two, it gives us something to talk about. It gives us some ideas to talk about. What are you working on right now? Are you working on more of a pre-wire application? Are you working on a trim out application? Where are you at in your design?
What's your control?
Yeah, what kind of control
How you
system are you
doing
using? Are you using, here's a good question for you. Who is using Savant over Control 4 or Crestron?
Well, I do know 2 dealers just because they could get it.
Yeah, there's inventory, right? And that's kind of what goes with this question on that as well. And hopefully it's a little bit of a timely question here in the coming months. Hopefully that question doesn't have to be a question anymore and everyone just has inventory.
Based on what I'm seeing, this isn't over and won't be for a while.
Yeah.
So hopefully by the airing of this show, Shanghai will be back open.
Hopefully.
But
yeah, we shall see.
Chang'an is shut down right now, so who knows?
We'll see. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It is, after all, a Wednesday.
Yes, it is.
So
Yeah.
that it is.
Yes, my dudes.
What?
Don't worry about it. As always, everybody,
I'm Brent.
I'm Adam.
Reboot early.
Reboot often.
Don't cut your wires too short.
Turn off CEC.
Call tech support
And make sure you're 20 meters long.
on any HD base T. Have a great week.
We'll see y'all
Thank you.
next time.